part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Look up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane,
This is Jason J. Lewis, the voice of Superman on Justice League Action. This is Mark Wade, writer of Superman Worldwide, and you're listening to The Krypton Report.
Look up in the sky!
Welcome to the Krypton Report. I'm your host, Tyler, the Superman of Blue, the Man of Tomorrow. And this is kind of like a Krypton Report minisode, but it's still a full episode. I got talking with Bryan, and it went bigger than we expected, so I'm kind of rolling this in to an episode with a special kind of just conversation. I'd like to point out that we do have a $1 Patreon, and I want to point out that our Patreon will be ramped up more this summer, a lot more things coming for that. But that's where we like to do a lot of commentaries or bonus episodes of different podcasts. Whether it's me and Bryan talking anything nerdy while we hang out, or it's me and James getting back in the Impala and driving around town and fighting evil, hunting things for the Supernatural Report. So I'd like to just give you the chance of opportunity to check that out. It's just $1. You know, it helps keep our podcast going. I'd also like to encourage anyone who's listening to email us. If you have questions, comments, just kryptonreportpod@gmail.com or through our social media channels. You can reach out and find us and have a chat. We chat a lot on Twitter, but let's bring that into the podcast itself. So send us any emails for us to discuss. If you have questions, thoughts, anything you'd like to hear our opinions on. I'd also like to say that in case Twitter does explode and ends, because I love being on Twitter more than any other social media, find us on Hive or Facebook. I don't post on Hive enough right now because I use the Twitter, but if Twitter goes away, I guess I'll be using Hive. With that, I also want to know that if anyone's a listener, I do invite you to come on if you want a podcast. You know, this is something that I believe in, is that anyone can podcast, and it's a great time of just talking with other fans. So if you're someone who has never done a podcast, never been on a podcast, and wants to, send us an email and we'll get you on there. We'll figure out, there's always something to talk about. I love podcasting because I feel like podcasting is kind of a therapy in a sense. Like, there's been times where I've recorded things ahead of time so I didn't have to record anything, and it was weird because I feel like it's very relaxing and therapeutic for myself to have podcasting as a means to do something. So I wanted to bring that up for anybody. Like, talking is just, it's healing for me. Something else is, it's interesting, okay, that Superman and Lois broke kind of the CWDC Season 3 slump. We always talked about Season 3's being rocky. Arrow's was atrocious. It's Season 3 and 4. Supergirl Season 3 was good, but I feel like Superman and Lois really elevated the Season 3. At this time, David Cornsweet is the first Superman to actually be cast that is significantly younger than me. If I remember right, Tyler is a year older or a year younger than me. So when he was cast, you know, when it's, oh my gosh, thinking about how long that's been since he was added, that's 2016 when he was added to the Superman fold. But David here is younger than me, shows that I'm getting old, and it's kind of an interesting thought. Lois, she's younger than I as well, but not as like she's in that bracket within 5 years, you know, so it's okay. So the other thing is, I started reviewing and discussing New Frontier, and that was kind of a podcast that was abandoned. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start breaking it up, and this will be the first part of a New Frontier, Justice League New Frontier discussion that I'll break up, and it'll kind of be like my own little backups to other podcasts. So you'll start hearing these little discussion points for New Frontier probably about once a month, and it'll be my little chunks of backup. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Bryan, and then we'll keep going from there. This man needs no introduction. You know his voice. You heard him. It's the legendary, the comedian, the man who's wearing a Spider-Man shirt right now with glasses that match because he's awesome, Mr. Bryan Peters. Bryan.
Hello, ladies.
So, all right, Bryan, we'll start here.
What's up, buddy?
Bryan's perks. Thoughts on the casting for Superman Legacy?
I think he looks exactly the way he should. I don't know much about David, but David, we were talking earlier, David does look like an amalgam of Tom and Henry. Like, a little bit more like a younger Henry. He's 30 years old. 30 years old seems to be, like, the age you need to be to play Superman to start.
It does, because Brandon looked a little too young. He was like 26 or 7 at the time, I think.
Yeah.
He still looked a little too baby-faced.
I can't remember how old Dean was. I know Chris was in his early 30s. Something like that.
Yeah.
Now we have to look it up.
Yeah, look it up while you talk.
But David's unknown.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's what it needs to be. You need someone that understands Superman, and I've looked at some of his interviews. He thinks that Superman needs to be more optimistic and hopeful. I completely agree. I think he's going to do great. He's going to. The internet sucks, especially if you're a DC Comics fan. The internet is pretty much the worst thing in the world. So a lot of hate for the kid already. He's not a kid. I mean, he's 7 years old, younger than us. But I think he's going to do great. I think he understands, looking at the interviews, what Superman needs to be. I would really like to see. Superman as a father, somewhat in these newer Superman movies. I know we get that with Superman Lois, but if you're going to bring Damian in it, I would really love a Super Sons film, or like a little. I think it's the time where our heroes need to change and they need to be parents, and I think it's so important for me with David's casting that Superman brings hope again. I totally understand what Zack Snyder was going for. I absolutely understand. What would Superman be in the real world? How would people react? I totally understand that. But sometimes I don't need so much realism.
I think we're done with the realism. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like in a way,
Yeah.
you need to watch Man of Steel in a vacuum, and not when you talk about his Superman automatically throw in Justice League and BVS.
Yeah.
Because Man of Steel was not designed to launch a universe. It was to be a standalone Superman film, to do a trilogy, and basically copy the pattern of The Dark Knight. That's what it was. It was the Dark Knight version of Superman.
Absolutely. If you watch it as a self-contained film, honestly, my favorite quote of that whole film, the favorite part of the whole film is when John Kent goes to Clark and says, maybe you should, and he's like, should I let him die, Dad? He's like, maybe. Just seeing that, what can be revealed. But, all in all, everybody loves Christopher Reeve. Everybody always ranks Christopher Reeve the highest. And the reason they do that is because Chris just brought so much hope and lightheartedness to the role.
I think lightheartedness is a key, but I think you can do it. He needs to stand out and be something different. Because I think if you do it right, the world needs to feel a little darker. But he's the light that takes that darkness. You know what I'm saying?
We talked about that before. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Instead of, if the world's too he needs. I just think if you did a Superman origin film, which this is not, you start off where Metropolis looks darker and everyone walks with their heads down, and it just feels.
What comic was that? What was that? What comic was that where Clark was saying, where Clark or Lois was saying that everybody was looking with their heads down until Superman arrived?
I don't know.
I know I've read that.
Yeah, you have, because it's either.
Is it all seasons?
It's either all seasons or
I think it is
Earth One or Birthright, or it's something like that in all of them. Because I know it was in when I was doing that whole thing with origins and
Yeah, I'm with you on this
because I feel like that's something about looking up and looking for a better tomorrow and
Yes.
everything, and just that I think the character needs to hit on. He kind of needs to stand out as like, are you for real? Like, not that he's anything that's not like just the goodness inside of him, because it's okay to reflect the world. So I mean, and that's why like I'm not against what they did with the Man of Steel, but we were past. We Man of Steel came out in 2013, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It was supposed to come out in 2012, but they pushed it back. So the year after The Dark Knight Rises, it comes out. And it's still in that vein. But if you look, 2012, we had the Avengers. And Marvel was changing things.
It was bringing things to a different, like you're watching a superhero thing, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, you look at
Yeah, not realistic. So.
when the superhero craze kicked off, basically, in
Spider-Man.
I always say it was winked at with Blade. Blade's kind of like you forgot that I was a comic book movie.
Yes.
In 98, then 2000 is X-Men.
Spider-Man.
And then 2002 is Spider-Man.
No.
2001 Spider-Man, right? Yeah, 'cause I was still in high
No,
school.
you're right. It was delayed a little bit because of the Twin Towers. Because
Yeah.
in the original trailer that they were going to do,
Yeah,
he
he
shot a web between the towers.
So it was in 22. Yeah, it was
So
in
it was
02.
2002.
Yeah. 'Cause
You are correct. I apologize.
No, you're fine. I was trying to remember because I was working on that summer.
So X-Men, yes.
So X-Men's 2000.
Absolutely.
02 is Spider-Man. 03 is X-Men 2.
04
is Spider-Man 2. Then
05 was Batman Begins.
06 is Superman Returns, and
07 was
X-Men
Constantine.
3. Well, it was Superman Returns
Yeah.
and X-Men 3.
Spider-Man 3.
Spider-Man 3 2007.
Oh, my bad.
So that's the next year. Constantine was 04, I think.
Yeah, Constantine's somewhere in there.
Yeah, Constantine's 04. And that's
In
when it was
2008, you had Iron Man and Hulk.
Well, hold on, we're getting there.
2003 was the original Hulk.
Yeah, 2003 is Hulk. Just Hulk.
Yeah.
Let's see. And then we get, was it 2007? We got Ghost Rider.
I want to say 2006 or 7.
I want to say it's 07. We got Ghost Rider. And then, I'm trying to do everything up to the MCU. Daredevil was 02 or 03.
03.
Elektra was like 04 or 05 and it bombed. And 07 was Fantastic Four 2, and I think 04 was the first Fantastic Four.
So...
Oops. So anyway, yeah. And then 08 is when...
So you had... So in 2000, and in 98 you had Blade.
Mm-hmm.
The only movie that Marvel did before Blade was Howard the Duck in 86.
Yeah, we don't... Yeah.
We don't talk about Howard the Duck. So then you had 98, you had Blade. I would say really Blade kind of started it.
So I'm saying Blade's the wink to it, because everyone forgot that was a comic book movie. It was rated R, but X-Men was the mass appeal. So Blade's like the grandfather.
X-Men. So Blade 2 is also 2000. 2002 you had Spider-Man and Daredevil. 2003 you had X-Men 2, Hulk and Punisher. 2004 you had Spider-Man 2, Blade Trinity. 2005 you had Elektra, Fantastic Four. 2006 you had X-Men: The Last Stand, Ghost Rider, Spider-Man 3. 2007 you had Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. That was the end of it. And then 2008 MCU starts Iron Man.
Spider-Man 3 came out in 07.
07, yes. Sorry, Ghost Rider was 07, Spider-Man 3, and Fantastic Four.
If you are like Tyler and James and can't get enough
So, yeah,
Super
that's-
I
Talk,
was reading that wrong.
check
And
out
then on
these
the
other
DC side,
podcasts.
Oh, that's easy.
Digging for
It's just
Kryptonite,
Constantine's,
Supergirl
like I
Radio,
said, like
The Last
04.
Sons of Krypton, The
And,
Superboy Legacy
Batman
Podcast,
Begins is
All-Star
05.
Superfans,
DC side just
Superman
had
the
Steel.
Animated
That really started
Podcast,
off.
The
97.
Aspiring
So,
Kryptonians,
97 was the year that
Always Hold On to
superhero movies
Smallville,
died.
The Geek of Steel, and
That's why.
Truth,
That's what I'm saying.
Justice,
97
and
ruined
Hope.
superhero movies because you had Steel, Batman, and Robin, and and Spawn, and they all tanked. And that's why in '98 Blade slips through as like the comic book movie that nobody knew.
You're right.
And then '99 was like I don't think there was anything. '99 was The Matrix and Star Wars.
Yes. 2004 started the comic book craze with Catwoman. And then 2005, you had Constantine, Batman Begins. 2006, Superman Returns. 2008,
$1 a month.
The Dark Knight.
Extra special
The Dark Knight.
content that you
2009,
don't get
Watchmen.
on the
2010, an amazing
movie commentaries and whatever else comes out of our
Joe
mouths.
Hex.
So check
2011, Green Lantern. 2012, Dark Knight Rises. 2013, the start of the Snyderverse with Man of Steel.
So there we have it. So yeah, back to
So what does it have to do with David being cast? Anyway,
just the idea of where it started dark
yeah.
with X-Men, and then it progressively got to like with the MCU, everything's gotten like more lighthearted and fun. Because I mean, think the Matrix was '99 and it was all black and cool.
Yeah.
Then the X-Men all wore black.
Leather. It was all leather.
You know what I'm saying?
The world, Daredevil, red leather.
You know what I'm saying? And then Batman Begins was realistic, dark, gritty seriousness, and that trilogy carried over. And then Man of Steel filtered into that, And then you think about Zach had done Watchmen into like BBS because you have Larry Fong again. Really feels like Watchmen-esque. Like it looks great. Like I love the look of it. But it looks more like Watchmen.
So my final thoughts on the casting of Superman. I think it's excellent casting. I think he's going to do great. The most important task that I bestow upon David is that, and Gunn, is I want kids to feel like I felt watching Christopher Reeve for the first time, and then watching Dean, where I put that towel around my neck. And I stood there, and like my sister took a fan, have it blow and stuff, or me just running around with my arms stretched out, pretending to fly. I wanted to fly so bad, and Superman was just like Batman was like the cool stuff, the gadgets and stuff. But Superman is who you really wanted to be, and I want the kids to experience that instead of being like, "Oh, Iron Man's awesome," Kids, if there's any Marvel character, kids, I'm cool with kids wanting to be. It's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Here I am.
For real, Spider-Man's cool. Who was that sidekick?
So, David, I'm excited. I can't wait to see what he does.
Now, what about the casting of Lois Lane?
I'm more familiar with her, only because my wife watches Miss Maisel. I've never watched an episode of Miss Maisel.
You're a dumbass for not
way.
watching it.
All the way. What's that?
I was going to say. I watched the pilot for that,
yeah.
And Jania came in and caught the end of it with me, and then I was like, that was cool. And then we are now done with season 2 and are in season 3. And that was like a week ago. Like,
yeah,
it just,
I'll have to check it out.
Especially with you and your recent endeavors, like, you would...
Oh, yeah, I finally got stand-up there. Everybody, I finally did stand-up bit.
So, I'm just saying, like, you would enjoy
I think
it.
I would like it, And I know Jen likes it, so, that's a rarity in this world. But she looks like Lois to me. If she plays a character like this Miss Maisel and what I know of her, she's going to be sassy. She's going to have spunk, and I think you need that. Nothing against Amy Adams, nothing at all. Amy is a great actress, not a good fit for Lois, in my opinion.
I feel like she was one of those like, oh, I can see it, but then the version that she acted, you're like, what? Like,
yeah, and I don't think a lot of it's her fault. I think that their whole relationship, went way too fast. You didn't get to see her. You didn't see their relationship adapt organically.
We just jumped.
You didn't get it. It was just boom. We're in a bathtub right away.
Well, that's because we did that 1.5 year jump, man. That's why. They're like, just fill it in. It all happened in that 1.5 year.
This isn't the new 52. This isn't the last one where like you missed 5 years or whatever.
They're like, you know what? We'll skip 1.5 years.
I don't know. We just needed to see more from me, and I think so. I'm excited about. It doesn't necessarily have to start at the beginning, but I would like to see I would like to see kind of like what we got with Terry and Dean in the 90s. You know, it built for a good few seasons.
I don't know where I want them to start this. It's so weird because
I don't want them to be dating. I do not.
I don't know. I don't even. Part of me wants them because I try to look at it in some
Or do you
ways,
want them to be married right from the get go,
I
so
don't
that
know
we
yet.
can get John?
Part of me wants them to because I look at it like this: you have people who like the character and will go see the movie, but they're not watching the TV shows.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
like
you're right.
that relationship that's like Terry and Dean, Tyler and Bitsy needs to be on the big screen. You know what I'm saying? Like, because we haven't really had that dynamic on the big screen. So what's another thing that you can do on the big screen that hasn't been done with the characters?
Well, I hope to go with my idea that I gave you when I saw it was titled Legacy, and they mentioned Damien. You know, I think the movie should end with John being born, or we do. You know, it ends with her being pregnant or something, and then post credits is maybe a little bit of a time jump where John's like 8 years old or something.
I think it ends with him
because if
being
Damien's
born.
going to be like 10, 13, whatever.
I think,
And then hence Superman's legacy,
yep.
Jonathan. Boom. I think it's time.
I mean, think about the themes that Gunn finished with Guardians about fathers and sons.
Yeah.
Even inside a Rocket's story, you know, creator and everything that. And then you're taking that into Superman. Like, I think it is time. Because like I said, what's something that can be different on the big screen?
It would be that.
You know, you end it with John being born.
Yeah.
Then you do a post-credit scene of, like you said, an 8-year-old boy standing next to his dad. He's like, "Are you ready?" He's like, "Ready," and they both like take off.
It'd be fantastic.
You know what I'm saying?
I would love it. Like, I would absolutely love that. Like, I can't even... Oh, my gosh.
I would poop my pants.
And Superman Legacy.
Okay.
You know? Yeah. I don't know. That's what I want.
So, Brian, what are your
Yes,
thoughts
sir.
on the end of Superman and Lois this season?
Absolute bullshit.
Yeah? That's how you're feeling?
Absolutely. I mean, seriously. You're going to end the show. You're going to end the season with the biggest reveal of all time.
I mean, they say
The Kyle sperm is just so potent.
that Kyle didn't.
The Kyle's the James of the CW.
I was like, as soon as we were watching that, and they had the scene, he makes Chrissy breakfast, and she wakes up and throws up. I said, "Oh no!"
Did you let out like I did like
Yeah, I was just like, "Oh no, I'm pregnant." I was like, it's like shorthand. Hey, when you tell the audience a woman's pregnant, just have her wake up and immediately throw up.
It's what they use every time.
Yeah,
it's the go-to.
It's super shorthand.
And now I'm telling you that Lana's pregnant.
Oh,
I'm telling you, one night stand, Lana's pregnant. I'm telling you, bro.
I'm just like, what? I'm just like, dude.
And then, so the whole excuse is that I'm going to start Steelworks. I'm going to Metropolis. I got you knocked up. You're going to come with me. That's how you get the characters off. And then maybe Kyle gets a job or something, or
what I find fascinating is what I mentioned is in that episode there are so many little things about how the characters can be written off and dispersed in the series now.
Yeah.
Or be killed off or whatever. And they finished filming this season back when episode 3 aired. So it's not like this season's been done.
Okay.
While they were airing, compared to like they're still filming while they're airing. Because I listened to Wale Park talk about they were about to air the 3rd episode, and I listened to a podcast where he was talking about they had already wrapped and everything.
Well,
so all this was,
so they already have it set up where they can end it pretty good for them.
Yeah, so I'm like, wow, they already had stuff set up before the announcement of what season 4 was going to look like. So
good call.
I'm just like, interesting.
So let's talk about Luther. I knew that Michael would do like a bit of a scary take. I figured that's what we were going to get.
Yeah.
I really loved him telling the warden how it's going to be, and then the warden, calling and like him threatening his family. That felt very Lex to me. Making that guy bend over and be his seat, and him beating him in the head to get that was pretty scary, Lex, for me. I liked how that whole episode was just him walking towards the farm and then building the tension. That was awesome. And him threatening Lois like that, awesome. But now I maybe there probably is a story that I haven't got to yet because I just started a new 52 in my chronological DC reading or whatever. But to turn Bizarro into Doomsday, I thought was a pretty awesome touch.
It feels like,
and it's a callback to season 2, where we see that green suit and we're like, oh shit, is that Doomsday in the mines? And then it'd be in Bizarro, and we're like, oh, that was a nice fake, but it wasn't a fake, Tyler.
No, it wasn't, and I think it's smart planning of just like subverting things, knowing where you're going with a story, so it doesn't feel like a retcon.
Yeah.
I think also it's
they knew exactly what they were doing years ago. And
it's
that's awesome.
it's kind of like a blend. Like I said, it's a blending. Like they took they turned General Zod's dead body into Doomsday in BVS. That's how the Kryptonian deformity. We saw the creation of the first Doomsday, which is I think the only Doomsday on Krypton. So in this, they kind of did the same thing, where they brought him back to life, where he was dead.
So what I didn't understand is so Bizarro, like in season 2, when you see Bizarro being like his good side, and him on the other Earth or whatever, like he could function normally, and he could like talk and communicate, but nothing was hinted at that like you could keep killing him and he would get stronger.
Well, that's
like where'd that come from?
Well, that comes from he was dead, and whatever Mannheim scientists did to him to bring him back to life, what they were experimenting on him, is what's triggered this inside of him.
Gotcha.
Because remember, they were trying to cure cancer cells.
Yeah.
With his blood, and used him to try.
It's like Ultimate Spider-Man with the venom.
So it's like whatever they were experimenting with his cells regenerating, it mutated and deformed them.
Gotcha.
So,
okay, I'm with you.
You know what I'm saying? Super science, comic science.
Yeah. Because comics.
Yeah, so that's what caused him to like basically adapt to the coming back, and it kept tearing up his body.
I liked it. I liked it a lot.
It was cool.
And he looked pretty great. He had spikes. Spikes are important.
Big and has spikes. It's the face, dude.
The head was a little.
Yeah,
a little like Joker in Arkham Asylum. Like it was kind of like that.
That's the one thing I didn't like. Was like the head and face.
Oh, the Flash CGI guys took care of that.
Well, I mean, it looks better than blood work and everything that they've done. So it's just like Doomsday on Krypton. Let's say he's wearing a beard. It was like Bill Goldberg as Doomsday.
Was it really Bill Goldberg?
No, that's what it looks like.
I was gonna say.
But and then I think Smallville had the best looking face, but of course it was a makeup and a rubber application because they weren't doing the CG creations yet.
They don't make them like they used to, man.
And then BVS's face just never did it for me because
there's no spikes.
He didn't start growing the spikes until like right at the end, and I'm like, he just looked like a big troll-looking, hulking monster. The spikes make it, man. The bone coming out, and like that's part of what makes Doomsday.
Yeah.
So
not looking like some Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
Project there. But the way it ended, man. So with Doomsday ripping those spikes off and like, come at me, bro. Like it was awesome. Like that last sequence was awesome.
I was a little upset that like the last sequence was he was flying to him, wasn't him like shooting heat vision out at him, like as he's flying towards him. You know what I'm saying?
That's fair.
that was kidding. I was like, because Jania asked me, hasn't he already fought? And then she's like, no, he hasn't fought Doomsday.
Well, pre-Crisis he did.
Well, on the other Earth he did.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm saying this is a different Earth.
Yeah.
So on the other Earth, he had fought Doomsday because they even make a reference of it.
Yeah, we don't know what happened. We just know he fought.
But on this Earth, he hasn't.
That's correct.
So I was like, yeah.
All right. Here's what I would do. I would do one of two things because you got to change it up. Either Doomsday kills him, and you have Jordan become your new Superman. And season 4 is the Jordan, like, because all season 3 was Jordan's not taking this seriously. Like, he's showboating. He's being like Connor was when he started out. Mm-hmm. You know, that little amalgam there. You know, he's got the goggles, he's got the black jacket, whatever. He's like Connor.
That's straight out of Superman, American Alien. The goggles and everything.
I don't think I read that one.
You haven't, if you're doing chronologically.
My apologies.
No, I'm just saying, like, it's...
My apologies, Mr. Superman, sir. You know, but, Jordan is, that would make Jordan stand up. That would make Jordan step up. That, like, my mom just survived cancer. And she just lost her husband. We lost our father. The world's lost a hero. I gotta step up. And that's the story that I kind of wanted. I want it to be, like, if this is going to be the final season of Superman and Lois, have Tyler die. Because, we saw it in, like, BVS, we did. But we didn't see any, like, Reign of Superman type thing afterwards.
Funeral for a Friend is my favorite chapter in that whole series.
Absolutely. Frickin' A.
But what do you have during the death of Superman? Superboy.
Yep.
Steel.
And you have Steel. And you had the Eradicator already.
Yeah. And then Cyborg Superman, I say you leave that out. Or you do a version of it, but I don't know.
Who? Kyle.
So
turn Kyle into your Cyborg Superman.
No, see, just do it like Luthor tries to make a Superman robot, or no, it's not even Luthor because this Luthor doesn't.
Nah, screw it. Just do this right. Just do this right.
He doesn't have the ego.
Like the whole. That's where I think they're going to go, and that's where I hope they go.
I think it would be interesting to start the episode off. Okay.
Yeah.
Where you start off with the fight. But then or you start off with like a shot of the fight, and then you're cutting back to like the funeral, or you're cutting back to a day, and you don't see the whole fight play out. You only see it in flashbacks as we're like they're moving forward, and then Tyler is present in the series as like flashbacks, or almost like this like a consciousness figure that Jordan imagines next to him, like coaching him, like and doing his training, or. He's like that, but then like season 6, you do something with the fortress, or not season, episode, like halfway. It's only 10 episodes, so like episode 5, like you start to do, he comes back, or something, or you just like you said, if you kept him dead,
final fight with Luthor or whatever,
you keep him dead the whole season, like, but you find ways to have him there. It would be interesting. It would be different.
The only other thing I think you could do, I hope they go with Plan A. That's the way I would do it. The only other thing is Jordan goes up there to help him, and Jordan dies.
That'd be tough.
It would be, and then the whole thing is like, and then it kind of goes with the theme of what, because Tyler's Clark. This whole thing is there are this whole story arc, if you will, is there certain things that even I can't deal with as Superman.
Yeah.
There's certain things I can't prevent. I can't stop. I couldn't stop my wife from having cancer. I couldn't save, people going evil or whatever. I couldn't save, that's the whole thing, like his whole theme is that there's certain things that even I can't do. So if he loses his son, his superpowered son, whatever, then it would be very dark, but it would be, I don't know, it would be crazy.
Let me ask you this. I thought about this. I told Jania.
Yeah.
this Doomsday is built from Bizarro.
Yeah.
Technically, the Bizarro body gets weaker near the sun. And they're in space.
Yes.
So he could throw him in the sun.
Yes.
And it would eradicate his body. He wouldn't be able to come back from that.
I don't think so.
See, what I find interesting about the new Doomsday, and I say new as in like, where they've used like more of a Kryptonian body for him, because in the comics Doomsday didn't fly or anything like that. But now, like with being from Bizarro and being from Zod, like Doomsday started. Well, he didn't even really fly with Zod, but this one, like he kind of flies. You know, I always joke like take him up into space and just throw his ass in space.
Oh, people have been saying that since the day they killed him. Like, why did he take him into space, throw him in the sun?
And then I said to Jania when he was flying to space, I was like, what we're missing is the scene where they look at Jordan and go, Jordan, go to the fortress and get the Phantom Zone projector. You know? And just send him to the Phantom Zone. But I was sitting there thinking, like, it's from Bizarro. And Bizarro can't stand and gets depowered over time through our yellow sun. So, throwing Doomsday into the sun, I think is how they'll destroy Doomsday. Doesn't mean that Superman won't die. Because I think it'll be something where he gets stabbed or beat or whatever.
And they do like an all-star Superman thing
and
where he gets overpowered?
And Jordan flies up and brings his dad's body home, but Doomsday goes into the sun and just... Because the sun destroys Bizarro. Because it's yellow sun compared to the red sun, which would power Bizarro.
Your logic's sound. It's almost like you're a Superman fan.
Because there has to be a way that you have to stop Doomsday, or else he'll just fly back to Earth and keep destroying everything. And that shows you how much Lex doesn't care about anything.
Oh, no.
Because he doesn't have a plan to take him out, to stop him. So.
Just like Jesse Eisenberg's Doomsday.
Yeah. Okay, talk about casting. Like, Jesse Eisenberg was cast. Social Network. I mean, that's a great take on Lex Luthor right there. But then when he get the trail he does in the show, you're like,
let me put this Jolly Rancher in your mouth.
Not exactly what I was thinking you would do. All right, Brian, the amazing Brian the Barbarian,
Brian the Barbarian,
Brian the Baptizer, baptizing Brian. I don't know.
Bullshit, Brian.
We'll think of another BE term. There you go.
Brian the T-shirts.
Brian the T-shirt.
Brian the lunchbox.
We're going to press pause and hear a few words from our other podcasts on Press Play Podcast Network.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. Here's how Books with Brooks works. We read one book a month and then we talk about it. Classics like Stephen King's The Shining, debut novels like We Are the Brennans by Tracy Lang, and tons of other compelling, life-changing stories, one book and 1 month at a time. So come read along with us and then listen in.
Before we start this episode of Krypton Report, I want to take a moment and just give a shout out here to our Patreon. I know what you're thinking. Gosh, everyone's asking for money, and I get it. But our Patreon is only $1. $1 a month that helps us keep the podcast going. And what we do is we try to find interesting shows and topics and whatever we want to talk about. We've done, as of this little thing, our last recordings were on the Scream series. Brian and Tyler, that's me, do our own show where we record in the car, and it's kind of funny. And we talk about pop culture or whatever is going on. We also have the Supernatural podcast we've been reworking. It's taken some time just because of life. But we do movie commentaries as well. It's something that James and I have done, what we used to do on the main show that we've started doing here. So for $1 a month on our Patreon, you can get those shows. There's at least 4 a month. Also, there's my movie pitch show that I do. But also, what we want is if you're a Patreon, you can come on. You can come on the main show if you want. Or if there's something you want to come on and talk about, we can do it as a Patreon special. So all I want is for $1 a month, think about chipping in, joining our Patreon, and you have a voice to be a part of things. Follow the link in the link tree or in the show notes below, patreon.com/KryptonReport.
If you are like Tyler and James and can't get enough super talk, check out these other podcasts. Digging for Kryptonite, Supergirl Radio, The Last Sons of Krypton, the Superboy Legacy Podcast, All-Star Superfans, Superman the Animated Podcast, The Aspiring Kryptonians, Always Hold On to Smallville, The Geek of Steel, and Truth, Justice, and Hope.
Remember to check out Krypton Report on all social media platforms. Go to linktree.com/Krypton Report. You find all of our report.
This is Dan Jurgens, and if you want to have a good time, keep listening to the Krypton Report.
Welcome to the Krypton Report. This is your host, Tyler, the Superman of Blue, the Man of Tomorrow, and I'm going to begin looking at DC Comics, A New Frontier. This book, I'm going to record this kind of differently, so the tracks will be fun. I'm going to record this in segments and put it all together as one recording. As I deconstruct and go through this book, this is a large volume. New Frontier was written by Darwin Cook, the late great Darwin Cook, and recently I had looked at Tim Sale and Darwin Cook's Superman Kryptonite, and I got thinking about how much I really enjoy Darwin Cook's art. I always have, and it has a similarity to Tim Sale. And I thought, you know what? I'll read this book, and I got thinking about as I read it, I'm going to talk about it. And one thing was I had never read it before, and I wanted to, and I know that when it was released, it's been released in individual issues, then public in trade, and then recently it's been re-released and branded as one giant graphic novel in the DC Black Label books. Some background on New Frontier is The New Frontier is an Eisner and Harvey and Schuster award-winning 6-issue comic book limited series written and drawn by Darwin Cook, and published by DC Comics in 2004. The series was collected into 2 trade paperback volumes in 04 and 05, an absolute edition in 06, and a deluxe edition in 2015. The story was adapted into an animated film, Justice League: The New Frontier, which was released September 26, 2008. Which, you think about it, that's 4 years. That's a quick turnaround, especially at that time, because if I remember correctly, that was the second DC animated direct-to-video film. The series was influenced by both DC Comics' long histories and series like Kingdom Come, The Golden Age, Watchmen, The Dark Knight Returns. Much like The Golden Age, New Frontier set primarily in the 1950s and depicts the Golden Age superheroes, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman meeting Silver Age characters, The Flash, Green Lantern, and Martian Manhunter. The story brings the gaps between the end of the Golden Age and the beginning of the Silver Age in DC Universe. So that's a little behind-the-scenes kind of idea, and I like it. I mean, to be honest, it's really neat. And it does give me a very strong Watchmen-esque vibe as I was reading it. Not the film version. I'm not talking about the film. I'm just talking about the book itself. The panels, being less panels per page, and the style, the serious structure of the story. The fact that one chapter has an article published by Iris West talking about the death of Our Man in Gotham City in 1952. And it does feel very Watchmen inspired. And not in a bad way where I feel like it's copying, just stylistically maybe. But it's been a great read. As I said, I'm going to read the book and then little by little and record and add to this recording, because I feel like if I just read the book straight and then I tried to turn around and record and talk to you, it might not flow so well. So I'm trying. This is a hefty book. So I'm going to try and do my best, okay? And that is where I'm at. The first chapter is the story is 1945. It's a military unit known as the Losers. We have Captain William Storm, Johnny Cloud, Sarge Clay, Gunner Mackey, and the unit's dog Pooch. It's sent to a remote island in the Pacific to retrieve Richard Flagg, an ex-Navy scientist. His unit was transporting. His unit was transporting an ex-Navy scientist. Can't even read my notes. As the Losers are approaching the island, their boat is capsized by a mysterious tidal wave, and they encounter an enormous Tyrannosaurus Rex. The T-Rex is heavily injured and it survives the heavy bombardment. The Losers are slowly killed and picked off one by one. And what happens is we have a story where our character is actually writing the story of the Losers. Where was I? The remaining Losers hold up in a fortified cave. The following day, Sarge, grief-stricken by Mackey's death, ventures out alone to kill the T-Rex, while Storm Cloud go in search of Flagg and his men. Storm is carried off by a pterodactyl, leaving Cloud to return to the cave, where he discovers Pooch and Flagg, whom he informed that Sarge has been killed. Cloud helps Flagg to escape the island, but stays behind with Pooch to finish off the T-Rex that killed his comrades, writing an account of the mission in charcoal on the cave walls. The following morning, Pooch is killed, and Cloud is heavily injured by a booby trap set by Flagg. Accepting his fate, Cloud attracts the attention of the T-Rex, jumps into its mouth, armed with 2 live grenades. It's very weird to start this story that way, but talking about how we connect to the Golden Age, I think it makes more sense. Also, the Losers is tied to a story that would appear later in Rebirth as John Kent and Superman travel back to the island in like a time vortex thing. It's very trippy, but very, very interesting. The second chapter. So when that chapter ends with the story of the Losers, the next talks about nuclear power and what's happened in the world. We're kind of summarizing the history of this era, which leads to a panel that talks about how many of the heroes had ended. Heroes are retiring. They're turning in, and we see the Justice Society basically stopping. The Cold War starts. They talk about some heroes who were beyond the control of mankind, the Spectre. Others were simple-minded patriots, happy to wave so long and go peddle their papers. We see Shazam or Captain Marvel. And then a rare few display the cunning and the conviction to evade capture. And of course, that's Batman. Ironically, in places like French Indonesia, U.S. foreign policy has been covertly enforced by an immortal and an alien. We see Wonder Woman and Superman. Nuclear weapons ruled out large-scale conflict, and the superpowers sought a fresh arena in which to wage their ideological battle. So then we see Edwards Air Force Base, spring of 48, and a little boy moving along. The little boy sneaks off and goes to a bar where all these pilots hang out. We have the little boy who's there to meet Chuck Yeager. Chuck Yeager comes out and asks the boy about his jacket, and the boy recounts that his daddy flew with Yeager, and he tells him a story of his daddy, and Yeager confirms the story. He says, "He was a damn fine pilot, son. You and your mom, she mighty proud. Now, what can I help you with?" And the little boy pulls out a model of the plane that Yeager flew, that he himself made, and he says, "Just please make it out to Hal Jordan." And then we see Gotham City, 1952, and we see a man jumping between buildings, and it's Chapter 2, State of the Union. That man jumping between buildings is Our Man. Our Man falls to his death, and we have a story by Iris West as Washington declares war on the Mystery Men. We get a whole newspaper article talking about men without countries, Eisenhower's enforcement, of these, and we even get a shot of a drawn picture of Superman fighting Batman in a very newspaper-styled force. They talk about Task Force X, and then we have Chapter 3, Heavy Traffic in Mig Alley. This is where we have mere hours after the Korean War conflict has ended, Hal Jordan is flying and is shot down by the enemy, not knowing the war is over. He is injured. He parachutes. His friend does a stunt, abandoning his ship, his aircraft, and going to free Hal and pulling Hal's parachute. Hal's parachute would not let free. It is given to us in like a briefing situation where the other pilot is basically being questioned on what happened. We then met correspondent Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen. And as they are leaving, Lois talks about the feminine mystique and how she can get what she wants. And as they are leaving on a helicopter, we are intercut with Jordan landing, and he lands right in front of a Korean soldier. And Lois's helicopter is instructed to go pick up Hal Jordan. Basically, the crash pilot. Hal then gets into hand-to-hand combat with this soldier and has to end up killing this soldier with his pistol blank in the head moments after the war is over, because it hasn't been communicated yet that to everyone the war is over. Hal gets into the helicopter and Hal is just stating over and over to himself and to Lois and Jimmy, it's over. It's over. No more. It's over. Chapter 4, Gods and Monsters. In this, a dying astronomer is found that he had accidentally pulled Martian Manhunter to Earth. And he has a heart attack and die because of the fear he gets by the Martian arriving. Now, as I stated before, I had previously seen the film. I enjoyed it, but I've heard that there's much difference in depth to the book compared to the film. So that's why I'm undertaking this task of the book. The next part involves Wonder Woman and Superman, where Wonder Woman is in the East China, Indochina area, and Superman sees all these dead men outside and goes inside and finds Wonder Woman and these women celebrating. What we find is these women were being held hostage and sex slaves and imprisoned in tiger cages, and while Wonder Woman was flying over, she freed them, and the women decided what to do with their men, and they killed them all. Superman argues with her about this is not the way we do things, and Wonder Woman throws in his face that she gave them freedom and a chance for justice, which is the American way. She tells him there's the door, and that's where that ended. And in Gotham City in 1955, we see the Martian Manhunter, who will be the Martian Manhunter, John Jones, has an identity, and he sits in an apartment and he's watching TV as time goes on, and he's learning. And my Martian name is John Jones. Here on Earth, I shall be known as John Jones. Police Detective John Jones. I'll be one of the good guys. We see 1956. Russia sitting Sputnik in 57. Eisenhower in 57. Second term as president. And then one day we have a narrator that comes in on the next page. And what I like about this is each panel or each page is only 3 pages or 3 panels per page. I can't talk. One day you go to work like every other day, but it's not every other day. Everything changes that day. And it's Barry Allen. And he's reading an old Flash comic, which is awesome. And then in Gotham City, 57, we see police detectives that are being called into a building, and they find the Batman fighting a crap ton of like evil cultist monks. And they have a child that they were going to sacrifice, and Batman is literally beating the crap out of everyone to free this kid. One of the detectives is John Jones, but because of the fire, he freezes and is then able to move. Him and Batman saves the kid. The kid is then afraid of Batman. Batman striking fear into the kid himself. And the other police detective who's with Jones takes the child while Jones is in the back looking at the book that these cultists had. And the cultist says, without the center, there is no holding. You swine, you will be judged. And that ends chapter 4. And that's where I'll pause for a moment.
Look up in the sky.